Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are the Millennial Career Consultants, and we will be presenting the analysis of millennial career preferences in the workplace. To kind of introduce everybody, my name is Nick McKinney. I'll be in charge of introducing as well as wrapping things up in the end. We have Ileana Jordan, who will be in charge of primary research as well as research analysis. Reagan Lindsay, who will be in charge of secondary research. Devin Medina will be in charge of presenting the findings and conclusions, as well as Eduardo Mariaga will be in charge of the recommendations. All right, kind of introducing things. We were given the opportunity to work with Jamie and EAN Holdings LLC to work with a problem that they're having with training and the hiring process. EAN Holdings strives on recruiting hardworking individuals to better their level of management staff. The problem that we're presenting with was EAN Holdings LLC has experienced overall growth, and to keep up with this growth, they're seeking new recruits to support that. Due to the nature of the position, EAN Holdings naturally attracts the millennials to fill these positions, and then are finding challenges within that age group. The purpose of this whole consulting project was to identify and understand millennial career preferences and reasons for why they're choosing a particular career path. With this, EAN Holdings can adapt their training programs to better suit the employees and reach that employee retention rate that they are striving for. With that said, I will be passing it off to Ileana Jordan to discuss the primary research and analysis.
Hi everyone, I'm Millennial Jordan. I will be discussing our primary research data collection and analysis. Our survey demographics mainly consisted of millennials, but we also surveyed Generation X and baby boomers. We decided that these three generations were most likely to be seeking new jobs. We conducted a convenience survey in the St. Edward's population, making our population size 5,000. We distributed 155 surveys for a 92% confidence level. To break this down further, we received 111 millennial surveys, 23 from Generation X, and 21 from baby boomers. As for our survey design, we distributed physical surveys with 10 questions, 7 multiple choice in which we asked participants to circle the most preferred, and 3 ranking where we asked students to rank from 1 being the most preferred and 5 being the least. The overall purpose of our survey was to collect data on the career preferences of millennials, Generation X, and baby boomers, and to provide EAN Holdings with information to better understand the career preferences of these 3 generations. In terms of our primary research analysis, we determined a survey was valid if it was 70% complete, and which only one of those did not meet that requirement. We then separated the surveys according to generation, tallied the answers, and inputted that information into an Excel spreadsheet. From there, we created graphs to display the distribution of the answers. And some of the examples I have for us is when we asked students, how long did it generally take you to decide if you will commit to staying to a job, in which you can generally see a pattern. Next, we asked students reasons why they would not apply for a job, and it's kind of hard to see, but you can generally see feelings of inadequacy were some of the reasons why. And right now, I will pass it off to Reagan to talk about our secondary research.
I'm Reagan Lindsay, so I'll be discussing the secondary research that we did. Based on our primary research, we came up with these 3 themes that we thought needed to be researched a little bit further. Those being how to train a workforce with 3 different generations, 2 being an in-depth research about work habits and values of millennials, and 3 being technology used in the workforce. So first, I'll start off with the training. So as more millennials enter the workforce, there's a growing gap of knowledge about technology. So millennials have grown up never really knowing a world without computers, whereas baby boomers have had limited use of technology throughout their lifestyle. And then generations Xers, some of them have grown up also like millennials, not knowing a world without computers, but for those that haven't grown up with technology, they're a little more used to it due to the increasing amount of exposure to technology in the workforce. The main generation here that it affects are the millennials, though, because growing up with so much technology, it affects the way or what they choose to learn, what they want in a career, and their expectations in their career. So the most important thing here is to provide training and technology that accommodates to the learning styles and lifestyles of all three generations, since it's such a diverse workplace. So next, I'll talk about the millennial career values, or the millennial work values. Sorry about that. So millennials are very self-confident and self-independent people. They believe that who a person is a lot more important than their background they came from. So instead of like having connections in the workplace or growing up like knowing a lot of people in the workplace, they believe that the values of a person is far more important as why you would be hired. They're also risk takers and want to own their own business. Instead of like working in a job and just promoting up the work chain, they would much rather just form new ideas and grasp those ideas and create new businesses based off of these and own the business themselves. And actually, recent surveys show that most of them want to and actually expect to be millionaires by the age of 35. Also, they take it on themselves to find the jobs, and usually starting at a pretty young age. Within 18 to 24-year-olds, half of them are actually full-time employees, while only 9% are part-time employees, and only 1 in 9 report actually being unemployed. So with that, I'll finish with the technology in the workplace. So millennials and Generation Xers are a lot more used to the emergence of tablets and cell phones and computers in the workplace, whereas baby boomers have always just known about computers. The baby boomers definitely prefer to be taught by an instructor rather than technology. The technology actually intimidates them, and they tend to stray away from it. The Generation Xers are a little more used to it since there's a lot more exposure in their years in the workplace. So they're a lot more willing to switch to technology-based training formats. Millennials, however, they actually embrace technology and are naturally inclined to work with technology since technology changes so fast. It creates like rapidly changing like realities in the workplace, and they actually prefer to work in these fast-paced, changing environments. And with that being said, I'll pass it off to Devin to talk about the findings and conclusions.
Thank you. Like Reagan said, I am Devin Medina, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the findings and conclusions that we were able to form based on the research that we had in our project. Though I'm going to be talking about the three generations overall and all of the findings and conclusions, our primary focus was definitely on the millennials, so I'm going to go ahead and start with them. When it comes to steady jobs, millennials reported that they aren't really holding a lot of steady jobs at this age, and they tend to have about 2 or 3 in the past 2 years. When it comes to location, based on the actual physical location of the jobs, it's not really important to millennials to be able to work from home. It's not something that matters to them. But when it comes to moving for your job or getting the opportunity to go somewhere else and perform the same job that you're doing or maybe a different job, they are really willing to relocate for any position that they have. In terms of job commitment, they're really quick deciders on whether they're going to commit to a job in the long run or long term. So it only takes them about 0 to 5 months to decide whether they're going to remain within a position. In terms of seeking new jobs, the 2 main factors that are going to keep millennials from applying to a job are going to be fear of inadequacy about the position or just an overall unclear application process. If they go to apply for the job and the application process is kind of, I'm not sure what to do, I don't know where to send my application, that's going to turn them away from applying. In terms of the actual hiring process and interviewing and going to seek out an employer, they are most comfortable with face-to-face, one-on-one interviews. In their career choices, millennials tended to rank management as the #1 job that they're seeking, and they're just not really interested in any kind of field that's geared towards engineering positions or, I guess, jobs that are similar to that sort of position. Their top value in a position or in any career that they're going for is financial stability, and that's something that's really important to the millennial generation. Moving on to baby boomers, Generation X, they reported similar results to the millennial generation. They've had about 2 to 3 jobs in the past 2 years as well. In terms of location, they're similar to the millennial generation, but they're a little bit different. They're also willing to relocate for their job, but in working from home, it doesn't really matter to them. They're not really passionate about being able to work from home or not being able to work from home. They're kind of indifferent. When it comes to job commitment, they're sort of the same as the millennials, where it usually only takes them about 3 to 5 months to decide whether they're going to commit to a position or stay with the job. But the slight difference is, even though they usually can decide within 3 to 5 months, they're willing to wait up to 10 months to make that same position, whereas the millennials, they're just within that short time frame. In terms of seeking jobs, the 2 main factors that are going to keep Generation X individuals from applying for a job are fear of rejection. They just don't want to go and apply for a job and then have that ultimate answer of no, you're not right for this position. And then the application process, they're not as concerned about it being unclear, but they're concerned about the time. Is it going to take too long for me to apply for this job? Am I going to have to go in for multiple interviews? It's actually the time that concerns this generation. When it comes to their career choices, they're mostly looking for positions in the accounting field or positions that are similar to that, and they're least interested in positions in human resources. Their top job value, the thing that Generation X employees really look for in a job, is their location. They want to be in a specific place. I'm not sure. We didn't look into where exactly they want that place to be, but in general, location is what's most important to them. And they don't really care about having a flexible work schedule. That's not something that they're really looking for or valuing in their work position. Moving on to the baby boomers. They're a little bit different from the millennials and Generation X. They're holding really long-term, steady jobs, only having about 1 in the past 2 years. In terms of commitment, they take a lot more time to decide whether they're going to stick with a job, usually anywhere between 3 to 11 months, rather than the short periods of time that it takes millennials and then some Generation X people. In terms of location, this is the generation that was really different, and they weren't willing to relocate for their job. That's not something they want to do. And the ability to work from home isn't important to them. When seeking new jobs, the things that are going to keep the baby boomer generation from applying for a job are unclear application process, similar to the millennials, and then fear of rejection, which was similar to the Generation X. So like the Generation X individuals, they're just scared of being told, no, you're not okay for this position. During the application process, they are least comfortable with Skype interviews. Probably you can attribute this to their lack of understanding about technology that we found in our other research. And they're most comfortable with just standing face-to-face, one-on-one, and talking to you. In terms of career choices, they're mostly seeking teaching positions, careers within the field of education, and they are least likely seeking positions in human resources. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Eduardo to give our recommendations.
Thank you, Devin. Hello, my name is Eduardo Maradiaga, and I will be discussing some of our recommendations for you to follow in order to better suit your job training program to the millennial candidate. So first off, we highly recommend for you to shorten your program. As I mentioned earlier, it takes approximately up to 5 months for a millennial participant in order to fully know whether he or she is going to commit to a certain job. If it is absolutely impossible for you to break it into a probably 6-month period, then we do recommend for you to break that. What I think your program is a year long. So what we recommend is to break it into two short 6-month periods with some job. What can you say? With some job experience in the middle for the applicant to really get to know what the job really consists of. With the longer the training program, then you will obviously face a higher dropout rate, and that is why we recommend for you to shorten it. Secondly, make the application process a bit less intimidating. Sorry about that. Feelings of inadequacy were the top reason why millennial applicants will drop out or not apply to a certain job. So that is why we really believe that it should be a bit more casual, a casual coffee, a casual meeting, Do you really think it's fair for an applicant to be judged or evaluated when he or she is really nervous? It's the first time, or if it's not the first time, it's one of the first times he or she is undergoing an application process. So we really think that you should make this process a bit less intimidating so the applicant can really show what he or she has to offer for this job. And finally, we highly recommend for you to emphasize the managerial skills that can be attained through this process. Millennials really showed that we are more lenient, or we are more, we highly are more inclined towards managerial positions, and that is why we have to emphasize that you will have transferable managerial skills that can be attained through this process. So I will now leave it off with Nick, just to conclude some of our findings. Thank you.
All right, to kind of sum things up, we presented the primary and secondary research that we conducted as a team, presented by Ileana and Reagan. We discussed our findings and conclusions presented by Devin, as well as the recommendations presented by Eduardo. These recommendations consisting of shortening the training program, making the application process less intimidating, as well as emphasizing on the transferable management skills that these applicants will be obtaining. With that said, we'd like to thank the audience for your participation, and especially thank you, Jamie, for giving us the opportunity to work with you and EA and Holdings. And now we will take the time to open up for questions that anyone